Your job is to turn that into one sermon instead of three or four that we've just kind of toyed with. Get your tissues because we've got Jeremiah, the weeping prophet. Welcome back. Word Made Fresh, weekly show, talk about narrative lectionary texts. I'm Reverend Jim Keat, Reverend Adrian Thorne. Adrian, you are in the pulpit this coming Sunday, November 24th, the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And the narrative lectionary brings us to Jeremiah. A couple little chapters in his big, bold, multifaceted book. What are you thinking as you approach this book and the particular aspects that the narrative lectionary pushes us into?
Um, I, I'm actually thinking a lot about artists, and I'm thinking about creativity, and I'm thinking about imagination. So there's a couple of things in this text that get me really excited. We know the sort of sinister, chilling picture of the of I think it's Jehudi, the king's person, using that little penknife. Like a teeny little knife that you might use to carve an apple, or I think they actually used it to sharpen the quills when they were writing. But he's taken that little penknife and he's just cutting the scroll and throwing those pieces of paper into the fire. And it's giving like Scar from the Lion King vibes, right? Like you are a little peon and you don't matter. And I can just take this knife and maybe even suggesting, what I do with this scroll, I can do with you.
Hmm.
And what does God say just a little few verses later? Write it again,
Hmm.
right? So, as an artist, being in a studio, when you are working on something and trying to perfect it, what does your director say? Do it again. What does your piano teacher say? Do it again. Well, there's a practice, there's a rehearsal. And I think this is a really good word for us in this moment. We don't throw our hands up and walk away because we didn't get the pirouette or we didn't land the lift. We do it again and we do it again and we do it again. I know that I talked about rest and pause, and I think that's important. But when we're ready, I think it's important to take a lesson from that message. We get up and do it again until we get it perfected, until we rehearse the world we want so that we can offer the world the vision that we want. That's one piece. I don't know if you want me to stop there. And then there's another piece.
Well, let's stop there because that's already, okay, another piece. What is this? Two sermons on one Sunday? Okay, preachers, if you're preaching this text, you got options you can borrow. I love that. I love that, because this is one of those, deep cuts, no pun intended, to the text of a story. How often do we know a story of this Jehudi guy cutting up the scroll?
Right.
I'll be honest, I didn't know about that one until I read it this morning. I'm like, oh yeah, that's in there too, isn't it? So
Yeah.
there, but I love the repetition, the take you have, and again, bouncing from the previous week where yes, catch your breath, and then when
Right.
you've caught it, let's use it for something good and beautiful in the world.
Yeah.
And I,
Let's
I
use.
love how you didn't even tell us the political side. You just dove into the artistry, the beauty, because we could say do it again, meaning 2 4 years we're going to be going back to the polls to
Yeah.
vote. But and maybe that was a subtext to your commentary, but I love that, don't lose the artistry, the creativity, the beauty, the imagination. That if we lose that, what are we voting for?
What are we voting for? And then you pull out a little because that same creativity is in our God, right? God made a covenant at Sinai. This king is destroying that, making it very hard for the people to be faithful to the covenant. So what does God say? I'm going to improvise, right? Jehoiakim is not working with me and my people. That's okay. He wants to zig, I'm going to zag. So God is creative. God is not rigid. God can improvise. God can change the choreography. So God writes a new covenant, right? We break the covenants. God finds a way for us to be back in covenant. We get the steps wrong. God's like, fine, you can't get those steps. I'll make it a little simpler. You forgot your lines. You forgot who you are. You forgot how to be in the world. I'm going to give you a script that you can work with. So I think all of these sort of creative, artistic tropes are really working for us in the text and in this moment in our lives. We are not defeated. God is not defeated by a human king. Please, God's like, I'll do something new.
Which that leads us to the other portion of the text where it's this whole the days are coming where I will make a new covenant.
Right.
Where are you going? Do you have more thoughts on this second portion in the narrative lectionary? This new covenant that God is cooking up with Jeremiah and all the people?
Yeah, well, I think there's something in that, in the cooking up with. We do what we do together in community. God is not interested in healing this world, fixing this world by God's self. We co create with. And I think that is incredibly exciting. There have been spaces I've danced in where the director wants no input, right? You're the vessel, you do what I say, I give you the choreography, we paid you to do my vision of things. And then there are creative spaces where the director wants nothing but your input. What are you good at? What can I put in that makes you look good? I think this is God. Not all the time. I think there are times when God's like, do what I said. But I think in this moment, God is like, let's build us a world. And how can
Yeah.
we do that together? So we get to co create. I know that change, and I know that this moment is absolutely terrifying for so many people. I think what's interesting about me is I don't feel terrified. I think I said in a sermon a couple of weeks ago that I don't feel crippled by the election, but I do have an attitude. And I think it's that kind of attitude that allows me to have a little bit of excitement about what we can do and be together. The people are much more powerful than the ruling elites. The people are much more powerful than the government and the president. There's more of us. I think we want it more. And so this opportunity to come together and plan with God the world that we want to see is exciting.
I'm with you there. It is exciting to be reminded that, God has hands, they're attached to our wrists. Let's use these to
So,
bring something beautiful to life in the world. And I can't help but hear in the back of my head, I forget where I heard it, that it could feel like that we're shifting in our US government away from a government for the people, by the people, into a government for the billionaires, by the billionaires. How do we just play when the access to even get to the table or have a voice in some of these changes seems to have a price tag with a lot of zeros attached to it that most of us, 99% of us, will never even qualify for in 1,000 lifetimes.
well, what I would say to that is I think there are lots of people in our country who can help us with that because they never felt like the government was for the people or for them. So women, queer community, certainly Black folks, Asian siblings, Latinx siblings, the poor. Fannie Lou Hamer said that this is government for the few, by the few. You know,
Ooh, okay.
yeah. So
Nothing new, nothing new.
yeah, I mean, I think that there are people, certainly my ancestors, my parents, my grandparents, who would say, welcome to the party, y'all. This is what has been our reality. And I think it's the reason a lot of people of color in this country say that they're sad about the election, but they're not surprised because we've
Yeah.
seen this before. The people who are least able to bear the consequences of some of the racism and misogyny and imperialism and, hunger for blood and war that this country represents, even though it tells a very different story about who we are, makes them not surprised that we're in this place.
Yeah. And that again was where, like you just said, this is not a new playbook, not a new experience. And even when we look back at history where those realities have been very much real for a whole lot of people, some people are just waking up to it for the first time, perhaps. That is also out of that grief, that those experiences, that so much art has been birthed and has been created, and we need art as the expression of resistance in the midst of injustice and oppression.
Yeah.
I just love every angle of that, and now more than ever we're going to keep needing that art, that creativity, that imagination when it
Right.
especially seems like it could be snuffed out. No, 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 fan the flame and keep that growing and growing. Yeah.
Yeah, fan the flame. And I would say if you don't consider yourself an artist, that's okay. We can all enjoy art. So lean into the music that you love. Jazz as an improvisational art form is mind opening. I know when I get stuck writing, I've always put jazz on in the background because there's something about hearing that music that helps my when I'm stuck writing, it helps the writing to flow. Go to the museum, go to the theater, get online and just look at beautiful sculpture or art. You don't have to have, membership at a gallery. A lot of galleries now you can tour the gallery from the comfort of your own home. But let these pieces, which are a gift to us from the artist who created them, settle in your spirit, spark some of your own creativity, your own joy, because this is what will get us through this time and into, I think, the wide open space that helps us collectively imagine the world, imagine the impossible, imagine what feels impossible right now.
Well, that's all coming up on Sunday. So your job is to turn that into one sermon instead of three or four that we've just kind of toyed with. But that's the challenge of every preacher when it's like, I want to say all of this. How
Right.
do I just say the one thing that needs to be said in this moment?
Right.
Always the discipline, but no doubt that what comes from the pulpit this Sunday is going to be rich and meaningful and inspiring and give us the courage we need to do it again, do it again, do it again, like you said, and be a part of bringing this new covenant always to life among us.
Yes, yes. I can't wait. I'm actually really excited about this sermon. Not so
All right,
excited
well,
last week, but I'm really excited this week.
yeah. The other week, the first Sunday after the election, that's a
Uh,
different weight.
yeah,
I mean, they all are going to have a weight, but you've had some reps to do it again and do it again and do it
yeah,
again. So like you said that week, I'm tired, and now it's like, all right, I'm ready to dance.
yeah,
Let's see what comes to life.
yeah. And Alice
Well,
Walker said, "Hard times require furious dancing."
there
It's
we
one of my
go.
favorite quotes.
Well, join us at Riverside for some furious dancing. You can
Yeah,
join us on Sunday. We get things started in the morning with some classes in the room and online. 9:30. A lot of those start. Open Bible Study is a fun one. We'll look at this text there in Open Bible Study. Join us for worship. Things start. The bells start ringing at not at 10:30. The organ starts playing. Liturgy gets rolling closer to 11. So please join us in the room online. trcnyc.org. Stick around afterwards for virtual coffee hour. We've got all sorts of ways to stay connected and engaged. And then, like you said, we're gonna be a community that invites us to do it again, do it again, do it again, harness our creativity. So if that's your thing, you're in the right place, and we look forward to having you join us. And then we'll do this thing again and talk to you again on the next one.